tunes that get us started for the Doodle and Chat. It's got a little, I don't even know. That's not bass. It's not cool enough for that, but it is fun.
Little bouncy tune.
Hello, Doodle and Chat with Friends. I'm Carrie Baughcum.
And I'm Mandi Tolen.
And this is Doodle and Chat with Friends, which I already just said, so I said it for a second time.
So it's Doodle and Chat with Friends.
Which actually is accurate because it's Doodle and Chat with Friends today.
It is.
We don't have just one friend. We have for the first time ever, we have two friends with us. It's going to be an extra party today.
That describes us, the extra party.
And I think our two guests would agree with that as well. Bring the extra party.
The extra party.
How are you?
I am super excited because I get to see your face in person in just a few days.
I cannot wait. We will be at IdeaCon, right? In
yes.
Illinois for Doodle and Chat live. We're super excited about that.
Yes.
For 2 days, we get to doodle and chat with people at the conference. So excited.
I am also excited. And I know it's a super special time for you. I mean, you get to see my face and everything, but we get to watch the Super Bowl together. And my Chiefs are in the Super Bowl. And so I'm so excited. I say my Chiefs like I have any ownership in them whatsoever. But I tell people I was a Chiefs fan when they were bad. So I think you get a little bit more ownership with that. So
I will be there to keep you company.
That's right. We're gonna watch that Chiefs game.
That's right. So excited. So excited. And I get to hug you too. That's even more exciting.
That is exciting.
So fun. So we have two new friends with us here today, Michael Matera and John Meehan. Super exciting.
It is. So let me tell our audience just a little bit about both of these. So our dynamic duo tonight are the creative minds behind EMC2, a creative, student-centered instructional design platform to help educators bring experiences that students will be excited about. We really need that. Absolutely. So our first guest, Michael Matera, is a 6th grade teacher from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and the author of Explore Like a Pirate. He also inspires educators through the Well Played podcast and Hive Summit. John Meehan is a social media and event marketer turned English teacher and instructional coach. He is the author of Adrenaline Rush and the co-author of Fully Engaged. And I know he's had some podcasts too, and I didn't put that in there, so that's my bad. But I am so excited to welcome Michael and John to Doodle and Chat tonight, and I think we are going to have a ton of fun.
Agreed.
Yay.
Oh, hello.
I'm so excited to be here.
Hey, guys.
Hello. So for anybody who's joining us who hasn't been here before, or even for John and Michael, in case they weren't quite sure how this whole thing was going to play, and because they were just like, sure, we'll come on and draw with you and chat with you. We have with us what we call the bowl that knows, and it has special questions in here that we wrote just for the two of you. It also has a few questions in here that are random that none of us know what they are. And so what's going to happen is we're going to, Annabeth is going to pull from the bowl and read the question. And then you two are going to answer the questions. And then as you answer the questions, Mandi and I will listen and we'll chat, and we'll also doodle along with whatever your answers are. And then you two are welcomed as well to draw along with yourselves.
And we usually have some guests that will also either watch it with us or watch it later, and they will doodle along as well.
Yes.
Love it.
We're going to turn our cameras on so that people can see us drawing as we chat with you. It's a full screen today.
This is super fancy, or like the 6 box. It's like,
I know this is a level up. This is a new badge of achievement for us. We haven't had 6s. We haven't had 6 before.
That's awesome.
This is
That's
cool.
awesome.
All right.
I am so excited. You never know what the bowl's going to give you, and I am excited.
We've got some fun questions too.
Mandi, I like that I have, it looks like a little bit of hair in that picture. I'm grateful for that.
I've got the light shining right on it.
It's perfect. I look 10 pounds lighter.
All right, Kitty, you ready?
Yeah.
We're ready.
Okay.
Michael, you look really smart in that picture. The glasses.
See, I was just thinking, like, I feel like they took your 10 pounds and just gave it to me.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Tries. I thought
It was that old picture. I mean, like a year ago, that was spot on.
So the power of the eraser, like we can just lose 10 pounds pretty fast. So
No,
I
fine.
can fix that.
It
So.
means my current self lost weight. That's what we'll do. We'll go that.
To be fair, my picture looks more like Annabeth than me. So
Oh,
I don't know if Annabeth has ever noticed that, but it does kind of look more like Annabeth than me.
All right, what's the topic?
All right.
Here we go.
Okay. So your first question is, how did you two first meet and why EMC squared?
Wow, the boldest, like, let's just start it off.
Yeah.
Spit it out, yeah.
hold the nose.
Dang.
Michael, do you want to go age before beauty? You can go first.
Wow. Wow. Shots fired.
Yeah.
So am I supposed to answer both those questions or like one at a time or?
Well, since you go first, you get to pick, and then he has to answer the rest.
I'll back clean up.
I'm going to tell the story of why EMC2. Yeah. All right. We actually haven't been asked this. Like, I don't remember ever explaining this to anybody else.
Really?
I'm interested in hearing how this story plays out right now because I don't know what answer you're going to give.
I think I'm going to just tell the truth, right? Isn't that
Live on the air. Let's go.
Truth
We'll
sets
learn
you free,
together.
right? But I'm supposed to be drawing something while I say this.
If you want to, but you're welcome to
We
answer.
tend to find that guests think they can draw while they talk, and
I
it
can't.
ends up
I
not
can't. I mean, I straight up can't.
something
That's
as
what I did.
expected.
The snake.
Is that how it started? Like that? Like a crooked line?
Pretty close. But that wasn't the question. The question was, how did we land on EMC2 as a name or as a
How did you
company?
meet? And why EMC2?
Why EMC2 is in like the name or like
That's
why
what
did
you
we
interpretation.
Whichever you want. Both. Either.
Then
Yeah,
I'll take it the easy way then. Look, okay, I'll just start. So I'm gonna answer the EMC2. John and I started COVID. Like literally day one of COVID, where like the NBA shut down or whatever. I think that's a thing, right? And my guest, I don't even remember who it was on Well Played, canceled. And I needed a guest, and John had been on in the past. And I was like, I'll like see if John can. And so I shot a DM to John, and John was like, yep, sure. I'm sitting in an airport. Like I can do it like in an hour or something like that. And so we go do the podcast. And after the podcast ends, you know, we're catching up a little bit. And he was on the road traveling for an event. And we were both kind of talking about how like we're probably going to lose some events because this COVID thing looks like it's pretty bad. And kind of in that discussion, you know, we said like, oh, we should probably like, you know, maybe we should do a project together, maybe write a book. Like, who knows? Like, I've been like noodling around the idea of another book, and he's like, oh, so have I. And we didn't really like do anything about that in that conversation, John, right? Like, we just sort of
That's
like,
true.
like, I think of it like kind of how people sometimes say like, oh, like we should do this again, and then like they don't actually like call you, you know, that kind of thing. So I was just taking it as like a nicety. I didn't like super leave that conversation thinking John and I are going to write a book. And then it was really, to John's credit, it was just maybe like the next day or maybe 2 days later, he sort of sent me a text like, did we really mean that? Like, is that a thing? And I said like, oh yeah, like totally, like cool. And then literally after I said like, yeah, totally, bing, 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 like 6 more text messages come in with, here's some ideas I've had. Here's like it, and like the process had begun. Like, and that was sort of the kernel of our coming together. But truth be told, like that's all it was going to be, was a shared book, and that's it. And as we worked on the book, we kind of kept realizing like there's just more here. There's more that we want to do. The book actually is powerful. It's helpful. Like, we love Fully Engaged. It's a great book. But the ideas are bigger than that. Like, there's just more we want to share. And we didn't know how to do it. Like it wasn't immediately like, so let's do EMC2. Let's do this platform. But I think that actually in the end, that turned out better. Like, by not immediately jumping to something, we almost let this idea of us coming together and what power that brings us, and like what new doors that opens up for us. And then with that sort of marinating in our minds, all of a sudden, I think we chose a really great path in which we wanted to try to affect as much change in as many classrooms and support as many educators trying to bring the sort of best instruction to their students. And I don't know. Each step of the way, John and I put a lot of thought in the choices we made. And I think part of that helped with the writing of the book. The writing of the book is a slow process. It's a hard process. Nothing happens immediately, but that kind of put us on a slower timeline to begin with. And we knew the book was going to come before anything else. And so EMC2 started to develop while writing the book, but it really was allowed time to sort of take root and, I don't know, produce something great, I think.
Agreed.
So can I add color commentary?
Of course. I tried to leave enough space in there.
You did great, man. I was looking at literally right before this call. Today is the 8th of February, 2023. We took that phone call, Michael, on the 9th of February in 2020. Like,
wow.
3 years ago in 3 hours. And I was on West Coast time because I was in Portland, Oregon. And I remember that day vividly. I missed that flight and I had 6 hours to kill at an airport when he called. But I think, so this is our origin story, is how we met one another, because we didn't really know each other. I mean, we knew each other because we had both published through Dave Burgess. We've been on each other's podcast once or twice, but for one time waving in an airport, like, oh, you're Michael. Hey, John. Oh, see you never. Like, we never actually connected. But when the world kind of ground to a halt there in February into March of 2020, we quietly began working behind the scenes, monthly, then weekly, then semi-weekly, 2-3 times a week, then semi-times a day, because there was nothing else to do, right? The world just ground to a halt. And in putting the book together, it became the deleted scenes of the book would then make their way to the website. And then the deleted scenes from Michael's book and my book. And we just realized we have a lot of stuff. And the world really just was in that stasis for 6 months. And so while COVID was a great chance to reset, it was also a chance to, recalibrate, where do we want to go? And the tagline we came up with for the company is, we still use it. It's the idea of engagement at the speed of life. And I think that really fit for us. We didn't want to go so heavy into something that felt too gamey, too gimmicky. A lot of times people dismiss things that feel, Michael often says, I can't write 2 books about 50 ways to give out a sticker. So we have to, be open. But I think that's really important that, we open ourselves to that and say, well, how can we broaden our appeal to not just games, but engagement? Because things can be passing fads and things can be shallow and done the wrong way. And I think we're very intentional to not do that. So the serious science behind playful pedagogy is kind of how we drew our origins, and the name kind of came up from there. And I think that was, as Michael said, was this: we go slow to go smooth, and then we go smooth to go fast. It ended up being exactly where we were supposed to be. It's crazy how the world has worked in the 3 years since then, but I'm very grateful for it. So yeah, there's the origin story.
Awesome. I love that. I love stories that are like that. They're random and special, and then it's like the universe meant for it to happen all along, So that's awesome. I love that.
Amen. And I want to say, as a coda to that one, so I was stranded in an airport in what was probably the lowest time of my life. It was a very, very dark place. I was going through some really hard personal stuff. That weekend, Michael sent a text message out of nowhere, and we started this company. I had previously, the day before, flown from Baltimore giving a presentation to Portland, Oregon, where I missed those flights. So I was in Portland. Person I met in Baltimore ended up now being my full-time employer, who I work for at the county level, working in gamification, innovation, and artificial intelligence as my full-time job when I'm not working for us. And at that conference in Portland, I met my girlfriend, and we're celebrating now. It's been like we've been together since we came back from all that stuff. So that same weekend, my entire life changed. 3 of the single most important people in my life, 1, 2, and 3. So nothing is wasted. All good things.
I'm happy for you, John. That's awesome.
Thanks.
And Michael, you got to be a small wee part of all that too.
I did. We took so many meetings together. Like, I don't think people understand the amount of time it takes to write a book. And then when you decide a quarter of the way through the book that like you need the book plus something else. I mean, John, I don't even want to say he was on speed dial. He might have just always been on the phone. I mean, it might have just been on. Wednesday was our standing meeting, but then we would take a million off hours meetings outside of Wednesday. And when I say Wednesday, I mean from after school, like 3:30, would start in the car driving home on phone, get home, be on the Zoom from 4 till like 11 at night. I mean, like every Wednesday. And then, like I said, then driving to school on Thursday morning, be like, I got to tell them something else. And then Friday, and then Saturday, and then Sunday. But it was, I don't know, like looking back, we were saying we're currently in this like little super creative stretch right now. And we were like, it reminds us of those old days when we just had to, before the company went live, we were trying to have 200 resources before we went live. And so we just grinded out like as many ideas as I like worked as hard as we could because we knew we wanted to launch it March. Yeah, it was just, it's a neat time to sort of reflect on where we've come from.
That's awesome. And it's just, I think it's also just a really special time in a creative person's life when they can find somebody that can hold up creative wise, but then also that you meet your match when it comes to work ethic and commitment to something. It's just, I think a lot of us, and I know Michael in our past, we've talked about those things, you know, but when you can finally meet that person, it's a really, really special feeling. And you know, you're lucky, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I often joke that I'm not fun at parties. I tell the kids I have no life and no friends. All I talk about is education all the time. And I'm exhausting because like we'll be playing a game and I'll be like, oh, here's how we can use this game in the classroom. And everyone's like, just shut up. Just be here. Like
Play the game.
Have a drink, man. So like I'm honored to do the work. And it's that cool moment where you see someone else who is flickering at the same speed you're flickering, right? Mm-hmm. There's that energy that comes from. And you guys, I mean, you have it on your podcast, right? Having someone else who's like, I'm going to hold you accountable and we're going to show up for each other on the regular. And that on those days where you don't want to do it forces you to say, well, Mandi's going to do it. All right, I'll show up. Carrie's going to be here. All right. Yeah. And then, I mean, like they say, never meet your heroes because they always like will disappoint you. Like I'm still in that starstruck moment that this is Michael Matera who wrote that great book, right? He has his podcast, his huge Twitter following. And like, I kind of have to do my part to show up. And so I'm like overproducing or overperforming because I want to make sure that this guy knows I'm not just trying to ride his coattails. Like I'm a real deal kind of guy. And I think, I don't mean to speak for you, Michael, but quietly it's this game of, we're all playing this game a little bit. We all have to bring our best self out. And then we bring out the best of those instead of being a competition, it means being a collaboration where like the creative capitalism invests in itself again and again. And then the wheels really do start to spin. You might disagree, Michael, but that's my
No, not at all. I mean, Carrie, like you said, you and I have talked about meeting that match and having a professional partner that is just as driven, just as creative, just as mission centric. I mean, John and I talked about like, why is it like literally before we pushed the chips, we were already writing the book together, but like before we truly said, all right, we're going to go all in. I mean, we really had to decide like what makes you tick? Like, why are you doing any of this? And John and I really aligned on some fundamental things. And then, which is already rare, right? Like, and then on top of that, the work ethic, the drive, like, and I mean, John already knows this. Like, I haven't fully like tried to have other people be in that role or spot in my life, but there were some times where like I thought maybe, like I work with a guy and he came and presented with me a couple times. I did that with another person, and I'll be honest, like hoping that might turn, and maybe that'll like, maybe that taste of presenting, taste of like getting paid to be on the road a little bit would get those guys to be like, I want to do more of this. But that's not where their heart lied. They didn't try, like they're not trying to change the world in that manner. And that's cool. That's cool for them, but it's hard. It's hard to find that match. And yeah, like John, like he knows this. Like I thank my lucky stars. Like John pushes me every day, makes me better every day. And when I'm low, like he's high. And lots of times we're both riding the high wave together, and those are the best.
That's awesome. I love it. I'm happy for you guys too.
My face hurts, Michael. Oh, thanks, guys. I'm gonna make jokes because that's my coping mechanism, because I can't handle authentic human emotions.
That's okay. We'll be making jokes the whole rest of the time then.
I'll say this, like Carrie, this podcast or this Doodle and Chat is probably going to get the most authentic me, because you and I are so close of friends. Like any other one, like I don't know if I would share these answers anywhere else. So like,
well, thank you. That means a lot to me and Mandi, that you both feel safe and are willing to share. That means a lot.
And I want to point out to you, maybe to Michael, since we're in the sharing circle here, certainly.
Wow.
I mean, I'm very open about my mental health issues and my struggles, my battles with that sort of stuff. I was not in a great place when Michael and I kind of started pushing our chips together, and I spent 5 years in therapy. Like, I don't think it's an accident that every superhero origin story has like the planet blowing up first, right? Like there's those big dark moments that start it. And I wrote in an adrenaline rush at the beginning of it, like all the hard stuff that our kids are going through outside of school, right? Why school could either be like a release and escape and like a safe space to come to and say, you know, for a moment I can step inside of this magic circle and I'm safe here, or it can compound those things. And you know, in my first book, in my book, I talked about Disney World a lot, like this safe magical circle where like we know it's thin, we know it's fake, we know it's shallow, we know it's superficial, but for this moment, that's not a man in a mouse costume, that's Mickey, and I traveled 800 freaking miles to see him, and there's magic in that castle, right? Like, and I think we all become the teacher that we wish that we had. Like, I don't think it's an accident that as I'm going through trying to make sense of who I am as a man and as an adult and as a grown-up, I find myself turning to things that are very childlike, like toys, games, engagement, excitement, joy, wonder, discovery. Like those are all very pure, very wholesome things, and to kind of recenter yourself in that. So to bring that in, because like when we talk about the gaming, I'm sure we'll get into it. Maybe the bowl will know another question, right? But like, like
we went really long on this one.
When you peel back the pixie dust with all this stuff, like this is a Trojan horse for social emotional, for deep learning, for authentic inquiry, for like awe-inspiring wonder-inspiring curiosity. Like that's what we want in any classroom. So like if I want to, you know, put too fine of a point on it, it's the gimmicks and the games. But no, what I'm doing is creating a space where students want to be there. And then the teachers want to be there too, because life is hard enough for all of us. And in the Fully Engaged, we talked about the difference between distress, you know, the bad stuff, and eustress, with the same root word that you get euphoria, like joy. The happy stress that comes from, will my Chiefs win the game this weekend? Like you're kind of excited to sign up for the crazy, right? You know, versus the other crazy that we have to do, the distress, you know, the disjointedness, the disrepair. And I think that this authentic human moments to enter into those, you know, circles of trust or those magic spheres where it's okay to let our guards down. Again, to model our students, so we don't have to take ourselves so seriously all the time, because we're really serious about the work that we're doing, and we want them to know that they're loved, they're safe, they're supported. Games don't care whether you're black or white, gay or straight, rich or poor, old or young, if your mom and dad are breaking up, or if your girlfriend just dumped you in the hallway. Hey, I'm really glad you're here. This game doesn't work without you. Welcome. Sit down. Let's play. So yeah.
I love it.
Do we want to move on to another question?
I mean, I was wondering if we were going to try to make the first ever single question hour-long Doodle and Chat.
I mean, we
could probably keep talking about it. But
I was going to say, I mean, I feel like we could just like I could just keep filling the
Go
page.
But like the
ahead.
authenticity
Really
that's been dropped here is just I
know.
you know it's so genuine, and it really is so heartfelt that you both feel that safe and comfortable with us to do that, and so it's just really special. All right, what does
Yeah.
the bull have for us?
Has a little bit of a goofier question.
All right, here we go.
Describe to us what your gamer bow tie would look like.
Ugh. Ooh, it's a hard no. I have strong feelings about this.
Mute him. Mute him.
I have
Mute
very
him.
strong feelings about this. Is this an adult podcast or is this for kids? I want to be very clear before I pick my next sentence.
I mean, I don't know many children that. I mean, we do say it's for adults, so whatever you're safe, whatever you feel safe sharing, John.
I'm gonna speak in vague generalities here. I've always been told never to trust a human being who wears a bow tie. And I know, and I said that to Michael. So it's funny. But back to meeting Michael Matera. Here's some of the tea. We're going real today. Michael, I don't think we've told this story either.
Carrie, you haven't muted him yet.
I have to hear the rest.
I don't think
No,
I've
you
ever
don't.
told this story before. This is great.
I'm uncomfortable.
That's when you wear a bow tie.
Your circle of trust is cracking, John.
It's perfect. This was it. Carrie wants in. This is actually. I'm going with Carrie. You get Mandi, and in the end, we just like divided. And you take the E, and I take the MC.
Wow.
You can have this squared. You can keep it. I never loved it anyways. But no. So early in my life, as an instructional coach, I was a teacher and instructional coach at my school, and a big part of my job is to research different things. Like you get paid to be curious and listen. And if anyone's listening right now and they're not thinking about artificial intelligence, like stop what you're doing after this episode. That's where it needs to go. But as an instructional coach, you always see people who are trying to sell you something. Like they'll give you the disease and then they'll sell you the cure. And a certain somebody with a bow tie who shall remain nameless, who may or may not be just north of me here, was on a certain winter summit where people may be hypothetically ditching textbooks. Hypothetically, don't know who it was. While this free summit was talking, I was like, here's a commercial for a guy who wrote a book about gimmicks and games. And he shows up with his bow tie. And I'm like, I'm going to hate this. It is the exact opposite of everything that I am, because we just spent the last 20 minutes in authenticity. And I was like, he's the mad scientist of the game guy. I'm like, oh man, this is like the work I'm trying to do is honest. And I felt, there's a lot of people who are just trying to snidely whiplash you a little bit, right? That snake oil thing. And I was worried that what I was going to see was this glitz and glamour, Jeopardy Price is Right style. And I'm not going to throw any punches because I know there's different ways to engage students, but like there's a lot of bad things that are done in the name of gamification. Like it's bar trivia. It's just button mashing, and the rich get richer and the poor, tap out. If you have, different learning abilities, if you have processing issues, games where speed kills are not fun. Traditional games like beat you up. And if you think about the typical games that we all grew up playing, games like Monopoly, like you get voted off the island and you sit by yourself. That's not inclusive. I don't want to build games like that. So when I saw a Game Boy show up with his little, bow tie, I was leery, and I was like, I'm going to hate this. And I wanted an excuse to tap out. But I was struck by immediately how disarming and how genuine it was, that like very quickly I see what he's doing, which is this authentic deep learning, and the game is a Trojan horse to get them there. And he happens to just really like wearing bow ties, just like, oh, all right then, it's a Midwestern thing. I'm just going to be okay with that. So
for anybody that doesn't know, bow ties. So I work at a school that I have to wear a tie every day, and I had worked there, I don't know, 10 years or something, 12 years, wearing a tie, teaching 6th grade. And I was just like, well, if I have to do this, like, why don't I do it like a little more fun? And so then I started looking into bow ties, and then I was like, ooh, the first like bow tie that came up in the search was wooden. And I was like, well, if I'm going to do this already, like trying to be somewhat a poke in the eye of my admin that like makes me wear this tie, let's even go a little farther afield and have it be a wooden bow tie. And I wouldn't have to learn how to tie one. There's kind of like a double win there. And it became really fun at my school. Like like a whole bunch of boys, girls started to wear bow ties. I ended up buying a bunch of extra ones. Anybody that wanted one, we kind of had like bow tie Tuesday for them. And then that became a thing on Twitter for a little bit, for like a hot second.
Mhm.
And I don't know. So I look at them as fond memories. I now no longer wear bow ties like all the time. Because now at school, it's kind of flipped. A lot of the boys actually wear bow ties now. So now I'm equal opportunist in terms of the ties I wear. But that is the origin story for bow ties for me. I don't have some like super, super duper love of them. It was a time and place. I guess maybe your darkest time lined up with my bow tie time.
That's fair. It's only in a moment of darkness anyone reaches for a bow tie. I will pray for them.
It added to your pile of the dark times.
I will say I worked at a Catholic school for 10 years, and one Wednesday, funny story. I hope he's not listening. If he is, for the sake of this podcast, we'll call him Joe. Hi, Joe, if you're listening. A former colleague saw me in the hallway on a Wednesday. I was wearing a pink shirt. He goes, "I like your shirt, John." I'm like, "Yeah, on Wednesdays we wear pink." And he smiles and looks at me. And I was like, "Mean Girls." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And he walks away. Figure that's the end of it. I see him the following Monday. He goes, "Hey, we're still on for Wednesday, right?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Our Bad Girls Club." I'm like, "Bad Girls Club? What are you talking about?" I was like, he thinks that Mean Girls, the movie, and Bad Girls Club, the television show, are the same thing. He also thinks that I've invented it and not stolen the line from a movie, but I don't want to break his heart. So I went and I bought like 15 pink shirts because I never wanted to do the repeatsies. And then it became my thing where my kids started to notice that every Wednesday I would wear pink. So on Wednesdays we would say Hail Marys and we would wear pink. And that was my thing for 10 years. Like the yearbook quote from the kids, because the guy no longer worked there after like a year, but it's, "Oh, Meehan, it's Wednesday. He wears pink, right?" Now I'm at my house. I'm realizing it's Wednesday night and I'm only wearing like a sort of pink. So yeah, these things are born from honest origin spaces. But I guess the answer
I see that, John, like a separate side note. I see Monica's here. Super excited to say
Yes,
hi
she
to
is.
Monica.
How can you see that stuff?
You turn the comments on. Maybe the private chat is on the side. If you click the comments button.
Oh, look at this.
I don't think I have the ability to write back to you, Monica. So I had to just verbally tell you I see you. And I want to say super big thanks. Monica helps with all 5 years of the Hive Summit sketch notes. So, and I gotta tell you, they're my favorite piece to the Hive Summit. Seeing those just put a smile on my face every time. So thank you so much. You do an incredible work, and everybody loves them.
She's an amazing lady.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What else is the bowl ready?
Well, Michael did not describe his gamer bow tie.
Gamer bow tie. That would have to probably be. It would probably be made out of Lego, to be honest, and then probably make reference to some of my favorite board games.
How big is this tie, man?
Maybe a single reference.
I can't write the name of your favorite game on a bow tie.
You don't even know my favorite game. Yeah,
No, but I'm sure it's like really involved. Like I certainly couldn't write the instructions for it. It would take like 8 hours. I'd have to like write it up and down and back. Really tiny.
The Legos can be wrapped in the instructions.
I just want to remember that 20 minutes ago when Monica, when you weren't watching, John and I had like a really like heart to heart. It was beautiful, and I'm gonna remember those days.
That's
the
it.
Better days. This podcast really had its ups and downs.
Cartoon cheeks of Matera.
I'm in a bit of a
Not this
trance
one.
right now.
Skinny, angry Matera with his bow tie with all the instructions. All the way I can do.
I should just keep talking because then I can't hear you.
It's Good. Hope that makes it to the Doodle and Chat.
That will make it to the highlight clips.
Let's go.
We, you know,
I think it's time to move on to another question and deter from the bow ties because I feel like that put us in a interesting place.
well, you stirred the pot.
Well,
No, she did not. John did. John did.
You'd rather me tell lies than be honest. Fine. I hope the next. I hope
I
the
feel
next
like the
question is
circle of trust is out the window now.
about- I hope the next
There's
question is
no
about
circle
Monopoly.
of trust.
It's
No.
a
I hope the next
puzzle.
question is about Monopoly. Just watch Michael go through the roof.
Circle of trust turned into a dotted line.
Sure did.
Go to jail.
I think the ball is trying to stir the pot now. So, what
The ball
makes you
knows.
feel old when you think about it?
Oh, random question. What makes you feel old when you think about it?
Wow. I mean, this might be a lame answer, but in your head, or at least in my head, I've like locked in what a old and like new car is. And then somebody tells you like, I have like a 2004 like Honda Civic. You're like, oh, that's not bad. It's not bad. And you're like, actually, that's terrible. That is downright terrible. But like, I've just locked in that like those are car years that are like new cars.
Yep.
And they're not.
Not anymore.
Nope.
I have never felt older than when I go to buy pants. Because now all the kids are wearing these joggers. So I'm rocking these joggers now. Like, I hope you can see this here. And they're basically like gaucho pants, right? Like, they're not what a sweatpants should be. They fit in a different way. They like taper and they're weird. And then when you go to buy jeans, you're like, hi, where are the adult jeans? And they're like, oh no, these are those adults. And they're like, they're really skinny. And I'm like, that's a Peter Pan look. That is not for me. Or they're like super blousy. And I'm like, I think I would be made fun of, but it's hard because they don't sell my jeans anymore. Like, I'm just looking for like, a straight leg with a little bit of like a boot cut. They're like, no, old man, we don't sell those sorts of things here. I was like, well, that was cool. Like when I was in high school, and here I am like 20 years later, and they changed what cool is on me. So I'd be like, on a class trip with the students, like, you guys can wear jeans today. And they're like, ew, why would we wear jeans? And I was like, I don't know. What else would you wear? Like joggers. Get old. So yeah, that's that one.
Nice.
The clothes makes me laugh because we were at a store today, and I'm not going to say which one because it is that whole thing. You should not buy your clothes at the same place that you buy your food, but when you get older, that does indeed happen. So I was just walking by in there for food, and I was like, oh, that's kind of a cute sweatshirt. And as I picked it up, I'm like, I'm going to make sure it's a whole sweatshirt before I put this in my cart. And the lady behind me like laughs out loud. And she's like, I don't know why they just don't put like a whole sweatshirt these days. And it definitely wasn't. I just had to put it right back in the stack.
Nice little crop top, right?
Yeah, it was not, it's like, we're going to save some fabric. We're just going to make like a partial shirt and people are going to buy it. And they do.
They charge you full price.
That too. Except for the people buying is not us.
No, it's not.
When
Although I say, if I would show up to school in it, I think they probably would stop wearing it. I'm like, if you can wear it, I can wear it. They're going to be like, no, you can't. Take that off right now.
I said when I was shopping that like it brings new meaning when the sign says 33% off. Like, I'm like, you're not talking about money. I'm like,
I have found that teachers have an uncanny ability to make anything uncool just by talking about it enough. So
Or wearing it.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like we were reading The Great Gatsby and I told the students, hey guys, we're going to read the book called The Bay Across the Bay. And they're like, shut up, Mr. Meehan. This is awful. I was like, what? The Bay? Like, is that the Bay? Like, please stop. I'm like, but you guys talk like that. We're hip. And then I like dab and they'd be like, oh, that's so last year. Right. And I'm like, I'll just keep doing it. So maybe if we can do that with ChatGPT, like they'll just never use it because we'll just talk about it until they like don't want any part of it because they're where their aunts and uncles hang out.
All right, kiddo, you ready?
Okay. Whether it is your parents at a marathon in Florida, vacations together, or an annual cookout in Wisconsin, each of your families are a big part of your lives. What is your favorite family memory as an adult?
Ooh.
This is a John and Michael question all wrapped up into one.
And they did some research. This is like, you guys did some due diligence on this one.
We do. If you were all by yourself, you would see the level. You guys got off easy because there's two of you.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, I had to bare my soul to get to this point. But...
Yes, you did.
Michael, should I go first on this one?
Yeah, sure.
So it was in the question, but like I do these marathons in Disney, and it was born of like, again, like these humble, weird, stupid origins. Like my family's always been like a Disney family, and I'm sure there's a psychosis about this. So that's a different chat about that. But like as an adult, like why am I more excited to go to the place with Mickey Mouse than I was as a kid? Also, I don't have any kids of my own, and like when I go to Disney, I'm just so excited. I'm like, oh, right away, I'm gonna jump at the front of the line, move away. They're little kids, right? You know. But my aunt, I guess now coming up on 12 years ago, was diagnosed with breast cancer. She's fine. She's a survivor, which is awesome. But like, she owned at the time. She just sold, retired. She's doing great for herself. She owned a education software company, so like, how do you thank somebody who like? What do you do for somebody who can do so much, right? Like that's a really hard ask. Because my family are all like Disney nerds, we're like, there's this running thing. Do you want to like go to Disney and like run on behalf of my Aunt Judy? And it seemed like a crazy enough idea that it shouldn't work. And then one by one, everyone started saying yes. And so like, we just did like, and we had like people running the 5K, the 10K, the half marathon, the full, different combinations of the races, 2 or 3 of the races. And like, we brought out a dozen people in my family, like a dozen, and then people who were running. So then the other people were coming watching. So like, you know, dozen, 2 dozen people, and just made it an annual tradition that every year we run for, you know, like for breast cancer. Yeah, why not?
Oh, I love that.
And like, there's a picture of it in the book. Like you see me running again on Wednesdays where we're pink. Like I have a piece of pink kinesio tape on my hand. Every mile, like you're just thinking about like, I'm doing this for something bigger than me. And that's a very powerful thing. So then when your family's there to cheer for you, like everybody supporting everybody, it's that positive feedback loop. So, I mean, like it's a very proud moment as a kid to be there with my mom and dad. Then to be on the sidelines and cheering for them as they're finishing their races. And it's, you know, like, yeah, some people are moving faster than others, but you're doing it, you're showing up, right? And then all of that stuff, taking those pictures and sending that love back to my aunt and saying, hey, while you're on your fight, we're fighting for you. We're thinking of you. Like, it's not about the money. It's about the time we're spending and the quality of stuff like that. And that stays with me. So, I mean, like that first race was in 2010. It's now 2013. And like, barring a few years for the pandemic, like every year I'm running. We're in some combination of this or there. And it's a really powerful reminder of the stuff that matters. So I'm very grateful for those.
I love that.
I do too. That's a great story.
Michael, do you have a favorite family adult grown-up memory?
Yeah. So, I mean, like running through my mind is a million ideas from times with my parents, times with my daughter. I don't know if this is one of my favorites, but it's the one I'm going to share. It actually involves you, Carrie.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. You as well, Annabeth.
What?
Yep. So about a year, maybe a year and a half after my divorce, I have my daughter half-time. So man, was I freaked out about being like single dad. Like, whew, I teach middle school. I know middle school. My daughter was like 4 or 5 at the time. Like, I don't know, 4 and 5. Like I got nothing. Like I was freaked out. And my daughter loved to be creative and play and, you know, all the things that kids love to do. And I just remember when I would pick Mila up for my like set of days that I like, there was a truly a nervous energy, a little bit of, oof, how am I going to fill this time? How am I going to be present with my daughter? Am I doing the right things with my daughter? And a good friend of mine, Carrie, would listen to my like fears on that stuff, over the phone and whatnot. And it was right around the time where you guys started this whole YouTube drawing and Doodle and Chat, and it's changed over the years, but you guys had your where you guys would, Annabeth and you would just sort of pick a topic and everyone would draw with you and people would sort of tweet in their pictures, and Mile and I started watching that together and doing it. We had just bought a new house and we were sitting on the counter and drawing together, and that led to her really loving to draw. And we then started watching some other YouTube creators that showed you how to, draw various shapes, various like little cartoon characters or whatever. And we did that together. And it was really like about a month ago, I was talking to Mila and asking her, she's now 12, and asked how, what is some of her fond memories. And she really brought up that she absolutely loved our time drawing together. And that started because of you.
Aw. That is not the adult answer I expect. That's not the answer I expected, but that's really sweet. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Getting serious. It's getting serious again.
I
The
know.
circle has reclosed.
What happened?
Just filled in the dotted line.
Mandi, can you tell another crop top story, please?
Yours was a story about running for cancer survivors.
Yeah, and then you topped it, guy. Don't appreciate it.
Mine was drawing with my daughter.
I crop top.
I mean, I can make you feel old if you would like it. I mean,
Do you have a 2004 Honda Civic?
yes. So what do you think about when you think about 100 years ago?
Oh, God. Yeah, that's a great question.
What do I think about?
When you think so, like I had an aunt growing up and she was like 105 or 106, and she would talk about running behind covered wagons. Like those were her memories. And we're sitting here in 2023, and I heard somebody the other day talk about a 50s diner. Guys, that's not far off from 100 years ago. A 50s diner. The moment that thought went through my head, I was like, oh my gosh, like 100 years ago in my mind is covered wagons.
Nope.
And 100 years ago, we're almost at 50s diners. So there you go. A new thought to make you feel old.
God. I mean, like I was looking because last week or this week was the anniversary of Buddy Holly's passing. And like I'm an old soul, right? So I grew up, my mom and dad, classic rock and stuff like that. Like Buddy Holly's, of course, been long dead, longer than he was alive. But like without Buddy Holly, you don't have the Beatles. But the Beatles don't show up until the 1960s, which means that Buddy Holly had to be, oh my God, like, ooh, that's we're there.
Yeah.
All right. Now I feel old and sad and all of the feels. What the heck? I don't know.
Speaking
Sorry.
of old,
Crop
the
top.
world has something to say about that.
Uh-oh.
So, if you could take a trip into ancient history. Wait, what?
You read it wrong.
Yes, I did. Take a trip into ancient history. No, you wrote it wrong.
Did I?
Yeah.
Do you want me to read it?
Yes, please.
Read it as it's printed.
Because maybe that's how it's supposed to be. Oh no.
As written, if you could take a trip into ancient history, best describes you as a teacher. What it is been currently added in this moment to say. If you could take a trip
Okay,
into
Yoda.
history, what time period would best describe you as a teacher?
Wow.
That is weird that the bowl gave us that question.
Yeah. I pulled it before Mandi even started talking about that. So that was
Even weirder.
I don't even know how to answer that question.
Well, we had to lean on your ancient civilizations teaching. You know, we
This is
figured.
all you, guy.
No, it's not all me, because like that's just like it makes me like decision fatigue. Like I don't know, like there's a million metaphors running through my mind. I will tell you this: when my students ask which time period I'd want to like go back to as a world history teacher, and it comes up every year multiple times from lots of kids, my answer always is right now. Like, because history, like, oof, life was hard. Like, however hard it is today, it was harder back then. And back then could mean 2004 Honda Civic. Like, anything past today. And I literally push it like, can I choose the future? Can I choose the future?
That's really funny.
Yeah.
But you felt like a boss. You got 32 miles to the gallon. You're like walking around like the king, right?
Yeah. So, but a metaphor to like what time period would best describe my teaching? I don't know.
Right
I'm gonna
now.
go. I'm well, yes, like right now, because like I like to think I'm more progressive and new or whatever, but then that makes me think, you know, some of the people that I think about in my classroom, like those aren't new ideas. Like to be a constructivist, to be a progressive educator is actually an old idea. It's just one that has sadly been sidelined to more big data and, you know, like those kind of things. But I don't teach that time period. So I think if I was to make an analogy or a metaphor, I think I would probably go all the way back to the Greeks, because I like to think of this idea of school, all of school. Like I like to think of it actually not as subjects. I mean, it is subjects. I teach a subject, of course, but I like to think of it truly as just a mental gymnasium. Like anything we're really teaching them in K-12 isn't going to be the thing that gets them the job. It's not I'm not giving them the steps of what they're going to do at their job. I am just working out that muscle to be physically fit for that time and space and place to which they need it for that job. And like ancient Greece, their learning wasn't as linear as it is today. It wasn't broken up into little soup cans of knowledge that we dole out to kids. It was exploratory. It was a mentor-mentee relationship. It was a back and forth. It wasn't dictated by bells and times and cafeterias. Like, that would be me.
I like it.
What about you, John?
Gosh, that's awesome, man. That's a great question. I would often tell my students that, well, when I first started, I would tell them that this class, if we do it right, should feel like a college symposium on social media steroids, right? So somewhere between those two things, like that classical education, which is all learner-centered. Why do you, it's very Socratic, right? Why do you say what you said? Can you explain more about that? Like great teachers don't give you the answer. Great teachers ask you better questions, and they ask you to tell what you're thinking. But I feel like, and it's not a knock on anybody who would think to say it, because immediately Michael and I go the same place, right? But like, it does feel very ego, like, oh, I would put myself right along Socrates, right? Because like, he's like 1 and I'm like 1A. That is not true. So I think like, you know, for the sake of my own hubris, I probably put myself, well, like I would have probably just been that guy who like figured out the first computers and said, this is awesome. I have no idea how it works and I want to put it in my classroom. So that, I mean, like, playing the Oregon Trail, right? Like 1980s, right? You know, all that stuff where you have like floppy disks that were actually floppy and they were actually disks. So I think that'd be a cool thing. And that's only because I wish I could teach more in a Socratic style. That's the dream version of every school. But I'm always fascinated by shiny things. I tell Michael often I'm a dog chasing cars. So like I go all in for where it seems like it's going. And I think that's a cool space to be in. And I think about how fast ed tech has moved in the past 20 or 30 years. Like 20 years ago, we didn't have one-to-one in the schools. We didn't have Wi-Fi in the buildings. And now it's a generally understood principle that every kid has not only the school issued devices, but their own personal device they're trying to hide in their pockets. And like to be aware of that and be ahead of that. Because like, I was saying to somebody in a conversation offline before, if your school's only response to artificial intelligence is to have teachers use artificial intelligence to catch kids who are using artificial intelligence, then you're going about the whole thing all wrong, right? And I think that computing, information superhighway and the networked brain and the robots becoming cobots is a very fascinating, cool thing. So maybe somewhere between like Philip K. Dick doing Android's Dream of Electric Sheep and Blade Runner is right about where this utopian dystopian thing kind of lives. I don't know. So flashback like 50 years. I would suck. I would not be good at it, but I would be all in to try it.
Nice.
So yeah.
And then you would get a student like me who took the Oregon Trail game when they were bored and got into the code and changed it all to profanity when something happened.
Amazing. Can you go? Wait, can the banker from Boston buy a full top, or is it only a crop top? I'm just curious.
Where's your next code shift? I think we have time for one more.
One more. And I have space for one more. So
We got space for one more also.
I'm nervous, Michael.
I am too. I'm a little like.
It's gonna be emotional. Am I gonna be sad? Probably.
Probably.
Okay, John, you are an avid runner and Tough Mudder runner. Which type of race or obstacle race would best describe Michael and why?
Oh God! I was literally like, "Oh, I got off scot-free." Last question. I'm out.
Oh man.
Close the laptop.
So wow. All right. Well, Michael, we had a good run.
You did it, buddy.
We'll call it done. Yeah. Wow. Michael, Michael, I'm going to share a little bit of love between the two of us here. While we're working on things that are themed, we lean heavy in the theme of the work that we do, design themes. We have like, pirate themed, adventure themed, like space themed, hacker themed. We realized that there's an untapped market for like the athletic, because a lot of kids games, like, sports are really important. So I asked Michael often like, hey, you want to do more of this? And being very, very savvy, he'll say, yeah, we have to do that stuff for sure. Our nomenclature between the two of us when we talk about this project we're working on is sports ball. So Michael's a lover of all things game, but like this weekend he's flying out to see, we're doing a presentation together on Saturday, which is awesome, and have a chance to put up in my house. We'll have some wonderful food, good fellowship, play some games. He'll come out Friday night. We'll present on Saturday, and he flies out on Sunday. And I was like, Michael, that's Super Bowl Sunday. He's like, that's football, right? I was like, all right, here we go. So it's a funny thing to ask what that race would be. But what I do think,
I want to know the answer to the question. What sports ball am I?
All right, but I think the answer is what race? What race? When you run the Tough Mudders, I'm wearing my Spartan Race T-shirt, as a matter of fact, and this is actually a whole one. It goes all the way down.
There's different types. I did some research on this, right, John? Like there's the zombie one, and then there's an army one, and then there's just a mudder one.
Yeah, so the Tough Mudder used to be its own separate thing. It was then purchased by the Spartans, and the Spartans do their hoorah, and they're all angry and stuff. But the Tough Mudder, which is cool, like I often joke, it's like doing somebody else's yard work for them, because you carry buckets and you like jump in puddles and stuff and you haul stuff. But because they're always looking for the next thing that will trend on social media, because it's all about the pictures, like the people who are carrying things, they have a design lab. And I think that the Tough Mudder is a perfect fit for Michael, because that design lab is where they come up with the latest and greatest, most extreme, most, out of the box picture. So like to overshare without giving away about the work that we're working on, like today, Michael called me and he's driving. He's like, I got 5 minutes. I got to tell you 5 things. And then I'm like, okay, see you later. We'll see you on the call tonight. He was done. And after he was done, he calls me back. He's like, okay, I got 3 more things I want to talk to you about. Like, and it's always go, 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 which then I'm like, okay, I got 3 things I want to tell you about too. And before I can even get out half of one of them, he's like, okay, I have a thought about that one. I think we can spin it up and we can trick it out. And I'm like, oh man, like I want to sit down on my laptop. I want to show you what it looks like, because that creativity begets that creativity, and that really feeds into that energy. So the idea lab that comes with those Tough Mudders is always pushing for bigger, stronger, badder, faster. And then you're like Hunger Games. You're like the game maker, where you have all the players in mind. And because you know the players and their strengths and their weaknesses and how you can kind of tilt the field to their advantages or to their detriment, that is where Michael's brain goes instantly, because he just spends so much time breathing in game. So I think he breathes it out very naturally, and it's awesome to watch him work. It really puts me into like super flow state.
So I'm not sure we would want Michael to create his own obstacle course with that thought.
Yeah, you'd have to wear a bow tie, I'm sure, to get onto the course, but
there might be a lot of directions also. Maybe be more direction heavy than it would be like physically straining. So you'd have to
but I'd be like,
maybe watch a YouTube video 3 or 4 times before you could start the race, because the directions would be so complicated.
I would tell you that the hardest obstacle I did, I was in Spartanburg, South Carolina. I ran a Spartan race, and it was like a half marathon with like 50 obstacles. So you run it for like 5-6 hours. It's just like, it's grueling. It's on a mountain and you just hate yourself by the end. At the very beginning, at one of the stops, they said, this is the number on your headband, right? You see that. Based on the number on your headband, memorize one of these 200 random symbols and codes that are on a board. Somewhere on this race course, and we won't tell you when, but somewhere on this race course, someone's going to ask you the correct answer for this, and they're going to have the codex. If you get it right, they're going to let you keep running. If you get it wrong, you're going to have to drop and give them like 50 burpees or something like that. For 5 freaking hours, you're carrying this thing in your brain. Like, you never know when someone's going to check you. That is exactly what it's like working with Matera, because he's on at all times. It is, you can't coast. You can't like turn it off, because you know you're going to be pushed and be challenged, and you have to be ready for that thing that's going to push you. And it's harder than physical. It's that mental toughness. And I'm just,
in all fairness, he is the same way. Just so, I mean, the question was not asked of me. I have no clue what friggin' run he is like, but he is always on. He is always on, always pushing, like in a good way. Like, but I have to show up to those calls, bringing my A game. Yeah, like John is a constant. What's the name for those runs that are longer than a marathon? Ultra?
Wrong. They're called wrong.
Yeah, ultra marathon. John, this is like, I mean, like John, I don't know. John can get into a flow state pretty easily. That is not my strength. Like, he can get in that flow state and just hum along. And so maybe you're an ultra marathoner mentally.
What was that homework you gave me last night? You said if Mary wasn't around.
John has said like in numerous occasions that he never has time to play any video games anymore. And so I have never told him to do this. And yesterday after our phone call, which was like probably the 9th phone call of that day, by the way, because we've been batting around new ideas. And at the end of it, he's like, all right, I'm going to like sign off. It was 7 o'clock at night or something. He's like, I haven't had a break yet today. And I said, hey, I'm going to give you a little assignment. You should go play Breath of the Wild. And he laughed. He laughed. He's like, yeah, like I haven't seen that game in a year. It's a good game.
These are good problems to have. When you have someone who runs faster than you, you want to run as fast as you can. And, I think one of us pats each other on the back and says, keep running, kid. If you fall down, I'll pick you up. So I'm very, very grateful to do that work always.
So true.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for having us on.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here with us. This was a wonderful Doodle and Chat. And we want to welcome anybody who's here right now or is here later. And if you've drawn with us and connected with John and Michael and the words and stories that they shared, please snap a picture of your Doodle and Chat and share it out on YouTube. Not on YouTube, on Twitter or Instagram using hashtag Doodle and Chat, so we can share with everybody all the fun that we have here every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Except for next Wednesday, because Mandi and I will be, actually with Michael, at IdeaCon, doodling and chatting. So we'll be taking a week off of Doodle and Chat, and we'll see everybody back here Wednesday, February 22nd. Pav Wanderer is going to join us on Doodle and Chat with Friends, and we're super excited for that episode. Thank you so much to John and Michael, and we'll see everybody February 22nd.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks again, y'all.